constitution or composition. And finally, we will have a brief overview of the properties of matter. So my goal for today is to finish the whole slide for this afternoon. Okay? So let us start the discussion by defining what is chemistry. Okay? So by definition, chemistry is simply the study of matter. Okay? Now, what are those aspects of matter that we study here in chemistry? Okay? So in chemistry, take note, we study the following. We study the structure, the state of matter, the properties of matter, the composition, and even the changes that matter undergoes. Okay? So ibig sabihin, chemistry in general, this is the science that deals with all these aspects of matter. Okay? Now, let us just extract these terms that defines chemistry. So, starting with matter. So, we will go down to the terms that defines chemistry. Okay? So, in general, when we say matter, the definition and it would be anything that has mass and volume. Now, talking about mass and volume, these are common measurements, diba, in scientific study in terms of physical quantity or dimensions of a thing. Okay, so let us just have a short review. Talking about mass, okay, diba, it has a unit of measurement. And the standard international unit for mass, it is in kilogram. Whereas for volume, okay, the SI unit, standard international unit, is the cubic meter. All right. So again, anything that has mass and volume, that is matter. Okay. Thus, with this definition, we can then realize that matter is actually the stuff of the earth, the stuff of the universe. Anything, everything that we see around us, the plants, or your surroundings, what surrounds you, that are all matter. Okay? Now, we will be reviewing also here the aspects of matter that are generally studied under chemistry. Okay? So we will be reviewing, of course, the state, the three states, the phases of matter, and what are those three main states of matter. Of course, you're all familiar with this: solid, liquid, gas. Okay. Now, for an additional information to everybody, actually there are other states of matter. I think this was introduced to you in your senior high school or junior high school year. Aside from these three main phases, states of matter, we already have other states of matter which are not common here on Earth. For example, the plasma. Okay? Plasma is considered as the fourth state of matter. Okay? But again, this is not common on the Earth, but this is the common state of matter in the universe, in the space. Okay? So what are examples of those plasma made of matter? Example, the noble gases. Noble gases like helium. Okay, noble gases, these are the gases under group, the group 8. Okay? Group 8 of the periodic table. Again, group 8 of the periodic table, those are the noble gases. Helium, neon, ayan. Argon, yan. Okay, what else? Yung neon light, familiar ba kayo sa neon light? What made up neon light? Yung state of matter na yan is plasma. Yung lightning, okay, yung stars, okay, that is made up of the state of matter, plasma. Okay? So basically, okay, given those examples, diba, init man ang stars, okay? Therefore, we can say that plasma, it exists at extremely high temp. Okay? It exists at high temperature. Okay? So, sa sobrang mainit na temperature. Now, aside from plasma, there are also an artificially made na state of matter. Yung BEC, maybe you're not familiar with this, yung Bose-Einstein condensates. Okay, Beck, you can search for the meaning of this abbreviation. Bose-Einstein condensate. This state of matter is actually an artificially made one. Ibig sabihin, this is man-made. It is made inside the laboratory. Okay? Obvious naman sa iyahang name, di ba? Kung imuhang spell out yung name, Bose. Then Einstein. It sounds like a name of a person. Okay? And yes, no? Yung pangalan nito, galing yan sa mga scientists who were able to discover, okay, or synthesize this state of matter. Okay? A collaboration of scientist Bose and Einstein. Okay? Now, opposite naman for plasma, if plasma exists at high temperature, for Bose-Einstein condensates, they exist naman at extremely cold temperature. Okay? Extremely cold temperature, as in negative, about negative 273 degrees Celsius. Okay? So, opposite naman sila. Okay? But again, ang i-review lang natin, of course, is the three main phases of matter. This is just to help you realize that there are also other states of matter. Okay, so ito lang i-review natin, solid, liquid, gas, since, of course, the drugs, medicines available in the market, which is also related sa atong field, pharmaceutical field, mental pharmaceutical sciences, the medicines that you will be encountering, of course, exist only in these three forms, three states of matter, solid, liquid, gas. Okay? Now, another thing, matter occurs also commonly in these three forms. Okay? Yung mga existing, okay, substances on the earth exist in these three forms, solid, liquid, gas. Okay? So let us start. Prior to that, okay, we will also be reviewing the composition. Ayan, the composition of matter. Okay, so on the latter part of our presentation, you'll get to review the classification of matter based on its constitution. So we have pure substances and mixture. Also, we will be reviewing the properties. Ayan, the properties of matter, i-review natin yan. Physical, chemical property. Aside from that, we have another property that classify matter. We have intrinsic, extrinsic property. Okay, and finally, we will also get along with this physical change and chemical changes and mga common examples under this. Okay. So let us now differentiate the three states of matter, solid, liquid, gas. Okay. So first thing first, we will be differentiating the three states of matter on a macroscopic scale first. Macroscopic scale, meaning to say, yung differences nila, okay, with just looking at these states of matter on a container. Kasi on a macroscopic scale, each of these state of matter can be defined by the way how the sample fills a container. Okay, we can easily define each of them. kung paano sila nag-fill in inside that container, inside that Erlen Mayer flask. Okay, or inside that vessel. Okay, so let's start with solid. Solid is the one that is on the left side. Ito. So on a macroscopic scale, we can say that solid, okay, it has a fixed shape. Diba? Looking at the sample inside the container, it has a fixed shape. And it also has a fixed volume. It does not conform to the shape of the container. Okay? Kumbaga, it do not fill all the spaces inside the container. Okay, another thing, with that, it cannot be compressed. Solid cannot be compressed. Okay? And not like liquid, yung solid po, it do not have the flow property. Okay? It do not have a flow property. Now, I have a follow-up question. My follow-up question is, do you think a solid state can be defined by its rigidity or hardness? Dapat ba rigid or hard yung texture or property ng isang solid? What do you think? Yes or no? Yes, very good. Okay? Okay, no. Because, diba, if you come to think of it, yes, most of these solid states of matter are hard. Let's say, for example, yung bakal, diba, yung solid iron. Iron, kailangan ka ng iron, yung matagal pa kako. Diba? Solid iron is rigid, it is hard, yes. But there are solid like solid lead. If you search for the property of a lead, solid lead na metal, okay, or solid lead na sample, it is very flexible in property. Bendable siya, bendable. It is not hard, but bendable siya. There are also other solid that are soft, no? Like the wax. Okay? Diba ang wax kay soft siya, but it is solid. Okay? Therefore, you cannot conclude that solids are defined by rigidity or hardness. Okay? I repeat, kapag binanong kayo, true or false, ang statement, solid can be defined by its rigidity or hardness. That is a false statement. Okay? Next, let's proceed to liquid. Okay? Now, for a liquid on a macroscopic scale, looking at the container, looking at the container, the liquid has a varying shape. Okay? It has a varying shape. It has a fixed volume. Okay? It has a fixed volume. Okay? Given that fixed volume, it can now conform, no? It can now conform to the shape of the container. Okay? It can fill in that. Okay? The spaces ng container depende sa volume ng liquid. Okay? I repeat, it can conform to the container shape, but only to the extent of the liquid's volume. Okay? That is why, kung ang liquid's volume is until here only, okay, on a macroscopic scale, the liquid will have an upper space. Now, what do you think is the state of matter that fill in on the upper space of that container? It is?
Gas, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
Gas.
It is gas. Okay, very good. Okay. Now, another property of liquid is that they cannot be compressed. Again, the same with solid, liquid cannot be compressed as well. But when it comes to flow property, of course, when you pour a liquid, of course, it will flow. It will easily flow. Okay, so that is those are the properties of liquid on a macroscopic scale. Okay, let's proceed to gas. For gas, the same with liquid, it also has a varying shape. Hindi fixed yung shape niya. Okay, it can also conform the container's shape. Okay, but this time it fills the entire container. Okay, it fills the entire container. And among the states of matter from this presented slide, among these three, this is the only state of matter that can be compressed easily. It can be compressed easily. Diba, meron tayong mga dosage forms ng drug na compressed yung gas. Okay, so this state of matter can be compressed easily. And when it comes to its flow property, flow property, the same with liquid. It has flow property. So that's how we differentiate these three states of matter on a macroscopic scale. Okay, now let us proceed to the micro. Okay, on the bottom part, microscopic scale. So this is something to do with the particles na, the inside, the inside particles of these states of matter. For solid, on a microscopic scale, particles are very much close together. Kaya nga, kung lantawin natin siya with our naked eye, it has a fixed shape. The reason behind that is the particles on it are in closely compact. Okay, they're organized, very much organized yung particles in a solid. For liquid naman, close together din, okay, but this time disorganized. Okay, close din siya, okay, but not that the same na grabbing up closely packed with that of solid. Okay, so liquid, not that close, okay, disorganized, okay, yung particles. They move randomly, makamove sila randomly from each other. And finally, for gas, the particles this time are very much farther apart, okay, far apart and very much disorganized. Okay, so that's how we differentiate them on a microscopic scale. Okay? Now, all the concepts that define each of these states of matter, okay, which I mentioned earlier, are presented in this table. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Yung first three rows, it has something to do with the macroscopic scale. And on the last row, yan yung differentiation natin for these three states in a microscopic scale. Okay? Now, there are a lot of substances that can exist in each of these three physical states. Isang substance lang, pero kaya niyang mag-exist as solid, pwede siya as liquid, as gas. Merong maraming substances, okay, which has that kind of property. And they undergo changes in state as well. Okay, depende sa temperature or pressure on the surrounding of that substance. Okay? Halimbawa, when we talk about water, let's say for example, you have a water as the substance. Okay? Para familiar lahat, water. A solid form of water, an example is an ice cube. Okay? So halimbawa, you have an ice cube. So solid. Ibang kulay naman. Ayan. Okay, so example, you have ice cube, solid. From that ice cube, kinuha mo siya sa fridge nyo, nilagay mo sa room temp, okay? a little while or after a long exposure sa room temp, it will liquefy. Tama? From solid, it will liquefy because of the uh, increase in the temperature. Kasi from fridge, nga low ang temp, di ba kapag cold yung temp, is mababa yung value ng temperature. Ilabas mo siya sa fridge, nag-increase yung temp ngayon. So, ma-liquefy yung water. From that liquefied water, if you further heat it, apply heat, okay, this is actually the symbol of heat, no? Okay, heat. Ayan. So, you further heat, no, the liquid, you boil, for instance, that liquid, that will form its gaseous state. We form its water vapor. Okay? When you hear about this term vapor, so gaseous na siya, gaseous state. So as you can see, this different phases, no? These are the different phases of transition ng water. Solid to liquid, okay, liquid to gas. Pwede din ba pabalik, gas to liquid, liquid to solid? Yes. Okay? From gas, okay, from water vapor, pwedeng mag-condense, no? Yung water vapor into its liquid form. Then from liquid, you can freeze, no? You can freeze it again, okay, the liquid to solidify that water. Okay? Now let us talk about the terms, no? To describe those different phase transition of matter. Okay? So when we say solid to liquid, okay? From solid, okay, you liquefy the sample, that is melting. Okay, solid to liquid, melting. Then, kapag liquid naman, you evaporate it to its gaseous state, so that is evaporation. Just look at the arrow, ha? Just follow the arrow. Liquid to gas, that is evaporation. Now, from gas, going back, okay, convert natin siya back to its liquid state, that is condensation. Okay, I want you to be familiar with this. Okay. And from liquid, you wanted to solidify a liquid, so you are freezing something, no? That's freezing. Okay? Now, ano naman yung tawag sa transition phase from a solid state, okay, directly to its gaseous state. Okay? From solid direct to its gaseous state. That is sublimation. Okay, very good. Okay, that is sublimation. So, ayan. Then, yung direct opposite naman, direct opposite of sublimation, if coming from gas, okay, coming from gas, then converting it directly to solid without passing the liquid form, that is deposition. Okay? Now, I have mentioned earlier that water is a very good example of a substance that exists in each type, on each state of matter. It can be in a solid, liquid, gaseous state. There are also other substances, no? Like benzene, nitrogen, iron. They also undergo, no? These three phase transition, okay, sa substance nila. Okay, they can also undergo solid to liquid, liquid to gas, etc. Okay. Now, I will be giving few example of those substances that undergo sublimation. Again, kapag sublimation from solid, it directly converted to its gaseous state without passing to liquid. Okay, buo siyang solid, then agad-agad gas. So, a good example, common example, no, ng substances that undergo sublimation, we have dry ice. Dry ice, this is chemically known as solid carbon dioxide. Okay, so that's one. Another thing, we have iodine crystals. It also undergoes sublimation. It has this property to convert, no, directly from solid to gas upon application of heat. If you heat, okay, you apply heat to that iodine crystal, agad-agad na kay iodine fumes na ma-produce. And the most common naphthalene, are you familiar with mothballs? Mothballs, para na
Sa
siya,
off-off, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
yes, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So that you can test that at home, no? If you heat naphthalene, if you heat naphthalene from baho kay na noon, ayaw na namin i-try kay baho with kay inyong balay. Okay? This can get solid pa siya, di ba? Solid pa siya, nanagay na siya smell. Samot na kung imo siyang i-convert into its gaseous state. Okay? So again, naphthalene is one also of the common example ng substance that undergo sublimation. Okay, let's have one example for deposition. This is not common naman po sa ato ang field, but I will still give you an example for deposition. A good example is, ayan, yung formation of snowflakes. Okay, if you try to search the process, okay, it follows the way how deposition occurs from gaseous state directly to solid. Yung water vapor, it will directly change to solid ice crystals, forming snowflakes. Okay? Ayan. So we are done with the different phases, transition of matter. So those are, again, the classification of matter also, based on physical state, tapos na din tayo solid, liquid, gas. Now, another way to classify matter is based on the composition or the constitution of matter. Again, we can also classify matter based on its composition. Okay? So matter, based on its composition, we can categorize them as pure substance. This is pure substance. And we can also classify them. The other one is mixture. Okay? Mixture. Now, under pure substance first. Okay? Under pure substance, let me define first. Ano yung property ng pure substance? This is a type of matter with fixed composition. Ibig sabihin, it is made up only of one kind of particles. Okay? And under pure substance, it is further classified into two types. So when we talk about pure substance, there are subclasses. We can classify it as element. We also have compound. Okay? When do we classify a pure substance as an element? Okay. Now, when you say element, it means single type of atom. It consists of a single type of atom. One kind of atom is present. Now, I think you have already an electronic copy of your periodic table of elements, no? So lahat ng nakikita nyo sa periodic table of elements, okay, those are under this sub-classification. Those are elements. Sodium, chlorine, okay, chlorine, fluorine, bromine, carbon, ayan, hydrogen, yan. Those are elements, okay? They may occur separately or they may occur as molecules. Now, I have a question. Okay, what if you encounter a compound ozone? Ozone has a chemical formula O sub 3. Tinanong kayo, ano yung classification niya? Is it a compound or an element? What do you think is your answer? Is it a compound or an element? Wild guess. You can type in your answer, huh? Yes, very good. It is still an element. Okay. I am also monitoring the other mic link, no, on my other gadget. Okay. So yes, it is an element. Why? Diba? I have mentioned element consists of only a single type of atom. I am referring to the type of atom. Now, looking at the formula of ozone, what is the atom present there? Diba? It is only one type of atom, and that is oxygen, which exists as tri-atomic molecule. Okay? Isang atom lang yan, oxygen. Okay? But it exists lang as molecule, tri-atomic molecule. We also have diatomic molecules. Example, ayan. Diba? We have hydrogen gas, oxygen gas. Now, looking at this structure, not structure, the formula, no, of hydrogen gas, oxygen gas, single type of atom lang present sa formula nila. Hydrogen gas, it only contains hydrogen. Oxygen gas, it only contains oxygen, but they exist in nature as diatomic molecule. Diatomic kasi dalawa yung molecule na, yung atom ng hydrogen sa formula niya. Okay, so those are examples of element. Basta as long as isang type lang, single type of atom present in that formula, okay, that is an element. Okay, next, compound. Compound is another sub-classification of a pure substance. Now this time, when we say compound, it is made up this time of two or more kinds of atom. Okay, so halimbawa, you have a hydrogen bonded to two oxygen. So this time, this is already consists of two types of atom. You have an oxygen, you have two oxygen. So isang type, yan, oxygen. Then you have another type of atom, hydrogen. So two kinds of atom present, okay, that is a compound, and that is water. Tama? Okay, baliktad ka lang. Okay, that's O. Sorry naman. Okay, it's, ayan. Okay, so O, isang O, then dalawang hydrogen, H2O, that is water. Alright, so that is a compound. Two kinds of atom present. Okay, another example, salt. When you look at the chemical formula of table salt, meron siyang sodium and saka chlorine. Two different kinds of atoms, sodium and chlorine. Nag-bond, that is a compound. Okay? Another example, hydrochloric acid. Okay, never mind first the naming because we will have a separate segment, no, to discuss the naming, writing of formula. Okay, so for now, just realize how to classify if it is a compound, if it is an element. Okay? So yan lang yung sa pure substances. Okay? This is another example. Sodium bicarbonate. This is commonly known, okay, as baking soda. Okay, when you have your baking soda powder, tanawa iyahang iyahang packaging na ay formula ana sa iyahang likod. Okay? NaHCO3. That is the formula of baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Now look at the formula niya. Meron siyang apat na kinds of atoms. Sodium, hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So compound yan. Okay? So we're done with pure substances. Now we'll go to the other side. Okay? Ng classification of matter based on constitution, composition, we have mixture. Okay, when we say mixture this time, you have two or more substances intermingled physically. So this is a physically combined, no? Okay, na substances. So under this, na-subclassify din siya into two types. We have a homogeneous mixture we also have a heterogeneous mixture. When I say homo means uniform, di ba? Uniform, so evenly mixed. The composition, okay, that resulted upon mixing two or more compounds, uniform. Okay? It has only one phase, one color, one layer. Okay? So yan yung homogeneous solution, homogeneous mixture. So example are solutions. Okay? In our field, okay, you will be learning dosage forms ng drugs in a solution form. And when you encounter a drug in a solution form, okay, these are usually homogeneous in mixture. In fact, the particle size, okay, ng solutions are in less than 1 nanometer. So sobrang liit. Okay, so that is an example of a homogeneous mixture. Now, another example are the colloids. Colloids like milk, no, that is a very good example of colloids. Milk, yung fogs, okay, that belongs to this classification. Colloids na sila. Okay? And with regards to its particle size, mas malaki. Larger yung size niya, particle size niya kaysa sa particle size ng solutions. It's between the range of 1 nanometer to 1 micrometer. Okay. Now, I wanted to emphasize the properties of colloids because during our board exam, nigawa siya. Okay, the following are properties of colloids. So I want to share the properties of colloids with you. There are only two. Dalawa lang naman. Okay? So, unang properties of colloids, we have the Brownian movement, or this is also known as the Brownian motion. Okay? Again, Brownian movement or Brownian motion. This is the zigzag movement of colloidal particles. And that is due to perfectly elastic collision. Okay? So, I repeat, yung zigzag movement niya, that is only due to the uneven distribution of the collisions, okay, between these colloid particles and the solvent particles. Okay, so that's one. You can just be familiar with the definition. Kapag Brownian movement, there is zigzag movement ng colloidal particles. Now, for another a property of colloid is the light scattering, yung light scattering effect of particles in colloids. That is also known as Tyndall effect. Okay? That is also known as Tyndall effect. When we compare kasi to solution, di ba ang particles, I have said earlier, ang particle size ng colloids much larger siya compared to particle size ng solutions. Okay? So, with that idea, may mga spaces in between. Okay, so may mga spaces in between. On that spaces, okay, in between the colloidal particles, light will be absorbed. Okay, causing now a scattering effect, okay, or scattering of the visible light, okay, by colloidal particles. You can actually test this at home. Pwede mo moagto sa you can go at a dark area of your house, okay, or at your room, as in dark, good. Then you bring a glass of milk, kasi milk is classified as colloid, di ba? Then you have a glass of milk. Make sure that transparent yung glass na nilagyan mo ng milk. And then you bring a torch with you. Then you light a torch. Make sure yung torch mo, kung gagana gud ang kung dili kay hinay lang sexy kayo ang iyahang siga. Kanang yung bongga to iyahang light, okay? When you try to light a torch on the side of the glass containing the milk, that will show a light scattering effect. Mulahos ba? Okay? Mo reflect lang ang mo absorb, not reflect. Okay, mo banda man ang reflect. Mo absorb ang light. Okay, then mo pass through ang light, makita mo siya on the other side ng glass of milk. So, yan yung Tyndall effect. So, again, these are the properties of colloids, the Brownian movement, and saka yung Tyndall effect. Okay, so malapit na tayo matapos. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, next, for heterogeneous mixture naman, so this is the exact opposite of homogeneous mixture. This time, there is uneven mixed solution, no? Uneven yung mixture ng sample. So this time, na kayo makita na layer na ay mga 2 or more distinct phases or different phases. Okay? So a very good example for a dosage form ng drug, okay, are those in a suspension form. Okay, when we say suspension, these are mixtures in which it contains insoluble particles, as invisible ng mga insoluble particles that are being suspended. Kaya na suspension. Those insoluble particles are being suspended in a liquid or in a gas. So those are suspensions. Okay, so I will give you an example. Are those antibiotic, antibacterial that are in suspension form. Okay? Actually, atong mga vitamins sa bata pa ta, okay? Kung mupalit ato ang mama sa pharmacy, it's actually in a form of suspension. And it is the pharmacist or the pharmacist assistant that will prepare, that will add water to that preparation. Then in-mix na siya. Okay, that is why if you still have a photographic memory of your childhood days, when you take the vitamins, it has to be shaken first. Right? Shake siya sa first. I'm not talking about syrup, ha? Syrup is also a mixture, but it is not a suspension. Okay? I'm talking about those antibiotic, okay, that are present, okay, that exist in suspension form. Ang mahitabo mong gud-ani on a bottle, okay, kung sealed pagid na ang box, sealed na ang box, powder ra gid ni siya. Okay, powder ra ang sulod sa inside of this bottle. So the moment a customer will buy this certain preparations, the pharmacist or the pharmacist assistant will add water. Okay, insigida na gid na. Okay, they will have that initiative. They will add water, okay, and then they will just shake it. Ay dayon hatag sa nagpalit, okay, sa consumer, sa customer. But there are times that the consumer will be the one who will permit, no, the pharmacist na please do the preparation. But there are also other customers, okay, especially in the medical field, na moana sila nga I will be the one who will prepare that. Mag-add ra man gud og water ana. Naara man na siya instruction. Add like for instance 25 ml of distilled water or purified water ana. Then i-shake lang siya. Okay, those are suspension. If you are curious pagid about this preparation, you can search on the internet, but you will be learning more on the dosage forms of drug on your second year level. Okay, so suspension again is a heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so yung mga binigay ko nga halimbawa, syempre yung related sa gamot. Okay, kasi dun yung field natin, dun tayo pupunta. Okay, sige. Okay, let's have now the properties of matter. Okay, now when we talk about properties of matter, we're talking about here the characteristics, okay, characteristics that give each substance its unique identity. Okay? Halimbawa, di ba, when we recognize a person, ng tao, when we identify a certain person, we can recognize that person with his or her properties, like his color of hair, his or her weight, her height, his eye color, her fingerprints baka until DNA pattern. Those are properties that will help us identify, recognize that that is him because she has that brown eyes, etc. Na. The same with substances. For us to identify substances, we have to observe, we have to know their properties. Okay, each of the substances, okay, they have certain distinct properties. Okay, so talking about properties, we have two general class. Okay, two general classification of properties. We can classify the properties of matter using the properties physical and the chemical property. Okay, this first classification is closely related siya sa two types of changes ng matter, di ba? Yung physical change, chemical change. We also have another classification of properties of matter based on the dependency ng substance to the amount, okay? To its amount. These are intensive, okay, property and the extensive property, or the intrinsic or the extrinsic. So these are two of the general classification ng properties of matter. So let's have first physical chemical property. I know madali na lang to sa inyo how to identify if it is physical or chemical property. So pas-pas lang itong pacing here. So when I say physical property, as stated, it is the observable characteristics without changing its components. Okay, so characteristic siya ng substance shows by itself without changing, without interacting, reacting with another substance. So halimbawa are the following: density, melting point. You can just read this all, ha? Okay, ductility. What do you mean by ductility, di ba? Yung ability ng substance to be stretched into wires. Okay? When you say malleability, yung ability niya to be hammered, okay, into thin sheets. Okay? Electrical conductivity and resistivity, take note, these are physical property. It is physical property kasi it has something to do with quantification only, no? How strongly, okay? How strongly a substance, okay, or that matter resists or conducts the flow of electric current. Okay. Next, talking about physical property, as I've mentioned, this is very much related to what we call physical change. Okay. So, para mas madali lang yung understanding, i-relate natin siya agad sa physical change. So, physical change, this occurs when the substance alters its physical property. But take note, not its composition. Okay? Na ay alteration only sa physical property, not on the composition of that matter. That is physical change. So halimbawa, you're just melting, you're just molding, boiling, sublimation process, those are physical change. Okay? And next, let's have the chemical property naman. Okay? For the chemical property, these are characteristics naman ng substance that changes to form a new substance. Okay? So halimbawa, you have flammability, corrosiveness. Flammability, ito yung ability to burn, to ignite. Of course, if you are igniting something, you are changing already the chemical composition of that sample. Okay? Corrosiveness, that is the property of corroding. Okay? Halimbawa, mga acids. Acids are highly corrosive. These are destructive substance. Okay? Reactivity with acids, toxicity, acidity, these are all chemical property. Okay? Now, talking about chemical change, this is also termed as chemical reaction. Okay? Parehas na siya. Chemical reaction is also considered chemical change. Okay? Or synonymous siya to the term chemical change. So, this occurs, as stated, when a substance is converted into, this time, a different substance. Okay? So, say for instance, you have a water, okay? You have a water, if you undergo water through the process of electrolysis, okay? Ano siyang undergo electrolysis? Electrolysis, that is a process, no, of applying electric current, okay, to the sample of water, okay? So that is electrolysis. Now, upon applying electric current, okay, to that sample of water, syempre, water will now be decomposed. Okay? It will be decomposed into two other substances. Okay? Magbulag na siya into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. So this time, look at the product. From the original product, water H2O, this is not already H2O. Nabulag na siya, hydrogen gas, yung nabuo, tsaka oxygen gas. So you are now forming a new substance. That's chemical change. Alright? So there is a chemical reaction kumbaga happened. Now, other examples of chemical reactions are those involved in our biological system. Okay, most of the biochemical reactions in the body like digestion, sweating, metabolism, breakdown ng glucose, okay, those are chemical reactions, chemical change. Okay, so no problem with this. Grabe na kayo ninyo ka-master ang chemical change, physical property, chemical property, etc. Okay, now let's have, this would be the last slide. Okay, prior to our comprehensive check. Okay, so the other classification naman of the properties of matter is that we can classify them based on dependency of it to the amount of substance. So we have intrinsic property. Kindly highlight the prefix in, okay, para inyong madumduman na independent siya on the amount of substance. Basta intrinsic or intensive, that's the same ha, intensive, intrinsic property. Ibig sabihin, independent siya on the amount of substance. Meaning to say, independent, it do not depend whatever the amount of the substance. Okay? That is intrinsic properties. Halimbawa, odor. Okay? So for example, you have a plate of, not plate, let's say a glass of vinegar versus a teaspoon of vinegar. So magkaiba yung amount, tama? You have a glass of vinegar, you have a teaspoon of vinegar. But when you determine their odor, parehas naman sila odor. Diba? Whatever the amount of the substance, hindi siya mag-depend ang odor to that. Okay? So, independent. No, siya ang pasabot. Independent siya to the amount of substance. Color. Okay? Hindi siya depend sa amount sa substance. Melting point, freezing point, boiling point. Diba? Halimbawa, when you boil, let's say, a tub of water, ang boiling point of water yun is 100 degrees Celsius. Fixed din na siya. Imong i-boil ang glass of water versus a tub of water, okay? Diba magkaiba yung amount. But the boiling point, kung imong found lang boiling point of that water, 100 degrees Celsius regular. Fixed din ang boiling point. Whatever the amount of the water nga imuhang gi-boil. So that's an intrinsic property, boiling point, and the rest of it. Okay? And finally, extrinsic property naman, this is dependent, the exact opposite of intrinsic. This time, dependent na siya on the amount of substance in order for you to determine that property. So halimbawa, mass. Siyempre, in order for you to measure the mass, you have to know the value, the amount of the substance. Ganun din sa volume. Okay? It has something to do with measurements na this time. The length, the size, okay? The weight, the width, even heat. Okay? Heat energy. I'm talking about the heat energy. Okay? So, example ha, talking about heat energy, bakit extrinsic property siya. Sige, compare natin ulit. Sorry. Ayan. You have a vat. Sige, dili lang vat. Isang tub na lang. Okay, you have a tub of hot water. Let's say, kana nga hot water na attain na niya ang boiling point. Then you have a glass lang of hot water din. Okay, again ha, kani sila na-attain nila ang boiling point of water, 100 degrees Celsius. Now, kung ikaw, sabligan ka, I hope Bisaya tanan, no? Or sa Tagalog na, tinapunan ka ng 1 tub of hot water versus tinapunan ka ng 1 glass of water, asa ang masakit? Asa ang mas init? Siyempre ang 1 tub because it has greater heat energy. Diba? So meaning ang heat energy will depend on the amount of the substance. Alright? That is why it is under extrinsic property. Please don't be confused with temperature, ha? Kasi when we talk about temperature, we're talking about here the let's say the freezing point, diba? That is the temperature. Freezing point, the temperature at room temp, okay? Kana siya. Room temp that is fixed, 25 degrees Celsius. Ang temperature sa cold room, fixed ko na siya. So fixed na always ang mga temperature. Boiling point, freezing point, ayan. Okay? So that ends our discussion on review on the basic concepts of chemistry. So to check your, to check your learnings, sige, let me ask the following question. I want you to identify, just type in your answer, no, then I'll be checking. Type in your answer for number 1. Okay? Is it an element, compound, or mixture? Element, compound, or mixture? Okay, very good. This is a compound. Salt here is, this is not a mixture, this is a compound, ha? This is a compound. Sea salt is another name of table salt. That is only sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is a compound. Okay, what about syrup? What about syrup? Okay, very good. Syrup is a mixture. Okay, syrup is a mixture. Next, carbon. Carbon is, okay, carbon. It is a single atom. So this is an, carbon is an, carbon is an element. Okay, very good. Carbon is an element. What about milk? Okay, milk is a mixture also. Very good. Diba? This is a colloid. Sulfuric acid has a formula H2SO4. Okay, H2SO4. Now, given that formula, what do you think is sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid is, ayan, very good. It is a compound. Okay. Ethyl alcohol, it is a formula of CH2, okay, CH3, CH2OH. Okay, that is ethanol or ethyl alcohol. So this is, okay, very good. This is a compound. Okay. Sulfuric acid, ethyl alcohol, these are compounds. Look at the formula. Combination of 2 or different type of atoms. Baking powder, this was mentioned earlier. So this is, ayan, this is a compound as well. Amoxicillin suspension, so ito na yung hint nyo. Suspension is a mixture, a heterogeneous mixture. Now, I want you to identify the the classification based on the property, physical ba or chemical property. Let's have first the electrical conductivity. Again. Okay, very good. Physical property. Toxicity. Toxicity is, okay, very good. It's chemical property. What about reactivity with acids? Reactivity with acids. Okay, Okay, another chemical property, density. Density is, very good, it's physical property. And lastly, corrosiveness. Corrosiveness. Very good, it's chemical property. I'm looking at the other gadget. Mas paspas ang kuan dere. Murag, the device that I am using as the main one is medyo delay siya mag-receive of responses. But that's okay. Okay. Lastly, extrinsic or intrinsic property. Intrinsic meaning independent of the amount of substance. Okay, temperature. Temperature, okay, that is intrinsic, very good. Mass, mass, mass. Extrinsic, yes, this is extrinsic because it's now to the amount of substance. Volume, the same with mass, okay, the same with mass, extrinsic. Melting point. Melting point is, very good, it is intrinsic including density. Density is also intrinsic. Okay? So that ends, no, our discussion for this afternoon. Do you have any